Welcome to section 4.1, write linear equations in slope-intercept form. Now we talked about slope-intercept form back in chapter 3. So if you remember, that was the form y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept, which I'll just abbreviate as y-int. So if we need to write a linear equation that has a slope and a given y-intercept, well, we know that our slope is -2, so we can just take our equation and plug in that -2 for our slope. So it'd be -2x plus, then our y-intercept is 5, so we can plug that in for our y-intercept. You've got it. That is your equation. That's a linear equation with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 5. Let's see if we can now find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So here we have a graph, and the first thing I'm going to notice is we have our y-intercept because that's where it crosses the y-axis. So our y-intercept, that b, is going to be 3 because it crosses it at a height of 3. Now the next part, to get from that point to the next point, in other words, what is the slope? Well, we need to go down 1, 2, and then from there we need to go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going down 2, right 5. Well, now we have our y-intercept and we have our slope, so we can go and plug that into our equation. So y equals -2/5 x plus 3. That's all the more there is to that one. Here's another one. The only difference is now this has a positive slope, but again, our y-intercept, that b, is going to be right here, and that should be at -5. I don't know how I forgot that negative earlier. And to get from there to our next point, we would go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So for m, we're going up 4, and then we go right 1, 2, 3. So up 4 over 3. So our equation then is y equals 4/3 x plus -5. Or you could also say plus negative, that's the same as just a -5. Either would work, but that's all the more there is to that section. Now where this might get a little trickier is when we start using function notation. But function notation is not all that different than saying that something is x and y. It's not much different than just giving a set of coordinates, because our x goes on the inside of the parentheses for our function. So for this example, this first one, our x is that 0. So we're looking at, we have a point at 0, comma, and then our y is the same as what f of x equals. So in this case, our y comes out to be 5. So we have a point at 0, 5. We also could have another point, looking at our other equation, at 4, 17. So now we have our 2 points. Well, 2 points, that's enough for us to figure out what our line is. But again, let's look at maybe looking for slope-intercept form. One reason I'll think about that is because our y-intercept, that b value, comes when our x is equal to 0. Well, our x equals 0 right here, which means that 5 is our y-intercept. And then the other piece that we have to do is figure out the slope. So to get from our first point to the next point, our y value, it goes up by 12, and our x value goes up by 4. So our slope is going to be 12/4, or 12 divided by 4 would come out to be 3. If you like having your actual fancy equation, you can do your y2 minus y1. So in this case, 17 minus 5 over x2 minus x1, which is 4 minus 0. Again, that would get you a 12/4. So now we have our y-intercept, we have our slope, so we can just write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals 3x plus 5. Now let's go on to the word problem and then give you a chance to get some homework done. So a recording studio charges musicians an initial fee of $50 to record an album. Studio time then costs an additional $35 per hour. So the first thing we need to do is figure out, how do we relate that information? So let's say the cost is equal to, it's always going to be 50 bucks plus $35 per hour. So we'll just say 35 times h. Well, this looks really similar to an equation in slope-intercept form. If we thought of our c as a y and our h as an x, we could then have we could then have y equals 50 plus 35x, or if you even did a little bit more rearranging, we could have y equals 35x plus 50. Well, now the question is just asking how much does it cost to record for 10 hours? Well, that's our x, or the number of hours that we're using. So we can just plug that in down here for x. So 35 times 10 is 350, plus the 50 getting tacked on gets us to a total of $400 to record for 10 hours. So that'd be your answer for this one. And that's all there is to it for this lesson. So as always, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, and otherwise, good luck.